Think of the most brutal conquest in history. The cities burning, the legions roaring in triumph, the fields soaked in the blood of the defeated. Now forget all of it, because the real story of empire wasn't written on the battlefield. It was written in the silence that followed, in the quiet, opulent bedrooms of Rome itself. While history celebrated the generals and the loot, a darker, more intimate war was just beginning. This is the story of the wives of the conquered, the daughters of kings, the sisters of warriors, the women who were not simply killed but kept. Their bodies became the new frontier of the empire. Their lives became living, breathing weapons in a psychological war that Rome mastered. And what was done to them in the name of peace and alliance is one of history's most chilling and effective secrets of control. Before we uncover the 3 hidden weapons of this silent war, subscribe to Abandoned Historians to explore the darkest corners of the past. The dust of a sacked city is a peculiar thing. It doesn't just coat the ground, it gets into the grain of the wood, the weave of the clothing, the very lungs of the survivors, a constant, gritty reminder that the world they knew is gone. In the chaotic aftermath, the legions move with a grim efficiency. The men of fighting age are chained for the slave markets. The elderly and infirm are often dispatched as a matter of course. But for the high-born women, the daughters of chieftains, the wives of rival kings, the prized jewels of a conquered culture, a different fate awaits. They are washed, clothed in Roman dress and led not to a cell but to a chamber. They are being prepared for a life of gilded captivity. To the outside world, Rome would call this mercy. It would speak of diplomatic marriages, of forging bonds between civilizations. But in the cold, calculating halls of power, this was a strategy more potent than any legion. This was the strategy of the hostage bride. Imagine her, this stolen princess. The familiar scent of her home, the pine smoke from the hearth, the earthy smell of the thatch, the particular perfume of the flowers that grew by her window, has been violently replaced. Now there is only the alien aroma of Roman incense, the sharp tang of vinegar used to clean marble floors, the faint, ever-present odor of the lead pipes bringing water to a villa that feels more like a mausoleum. She is given attendance, fine food, a soft bed. These are not comforts. They are the bars of her new cage. Her value is her bloodline. By placing her in his household, the Roman general or senator now holds a perpetual living dagger to the heart of her people. Her father, her brothers, her uncles, anyone who might dream of rallying the clans for rebellion, must now pause. A single act of defiance, and a messenger would be dispatched. The message would not speak of armies, but of a sudden tragic illness that had befallen her. A mysterious fever, a fatal fall from a horse. The unspoken threat is absolute. Your lineage, the future of your blood, resides with us. Her heartbeat is the metronome that sets the pace of her people's obedience. She is a human shield for the empire, a silent sentry whose very existence pacifies a province. Every smile she is forced to wear for her captors is a message to her homeland. Comply or I die. But her role was far more complex than that of a mere passive pawn. She was also the most effective spy the empire ever employed, and her interrogation was a lifelong psychological seduction. It did not happen in a torchlit dungeon with iron tools, but in the supposed sanctuary of the marital bed, over shared meals, during quiet walks in the perfumed garden. In moments of feigned intimacy, her Roman husband would gently probe her past. He would ask about her childhood, her people's traditions, the stories of her ancestors. She starved for connection, for any fragment of her stolen identity would speak. She would tell him the old folk tales that explained the turning of the seasons. She would hum a song her mother sang to her. She would reminisce about a secret valley where her clan gathered in times of trouble, or mention the long-standing hatred between 2 rival families that her father had skillfully managed. To her, these were precious memories. To him, they were intelligence gold. That folk tale revealed a sacred site that could be desecrated to break their spirit. That song contained a hidden geography of the land. That clan rivalry was a fissure he could pry open, with promises of power and favor. Without ever leaving his villa, he was building a map of her people's soul, finding its weaknesses, its precious points. She was being meticulously, tenderly, drained of every memory and every secret, and each one was being forged into a new link in the chain that bound her people. This was a violation more profound than any physical assault. They were turning her love for her home into the very instrument of its destruction. The final and most devastating front in this silent war was the war for the future. These women were not merely companions or political hostages. They were wombs, the factories for the next generation of Roman citizens. They were forced to bear children, and these children were not raised to be bridges between two cultures. They were raised to be Romans, pure and simple. Their first words were Latin. Their heroes were Aeneas and Scipio, not the legendary warriors of their mother's bloodline. Their gods were Jupiter and Mars, not the spirits of the forest and river that their mother still secretly prayed to. A Gallic chieftain's daughter would be forced to watch as her own son was taught to see his grandfather as a primitive, a brute who needed to be civilized by the superior Roman way. She would hear her child speak her native tongue with a sneer, if he learned it at all. The empire was not just conquering land, it was conquering lineage. It was severing the connection between past and future, ensuring that the sons of the conquered would become the most fervent defenders of the conqueror. The womb, the very source of a people's continuation, was systematically co-opted and turned against itself. Her greatest, most personal tragedy was not the life she lost, but the children she was forced to bear, children who would grow up to see her and everything she represented as alien and inferior. This system created a hidden underworld of sorrow within the very heart of Roman high society. These women moved through the same spaces, attended the same games, and appeared at the same feasts as Roman matrons. Yet they were a society apart, a network of the displaced. A fleeting glance across a crowded room, a subtle gesture, a shared silence. These were the only ways they could communicate their shared, unspeakable truth. They were living monuments to victory, but monuments cursed with consciousness. They had to perform normality, to smile and grace the arm of the man who had orchestrated their world's end, all while knowing that their every action was being watched, both by their captors and by the emissaries from their homeland who reported on her contentment. Their lives were a continuous, grueling performance, a spectacle of assimilation designed to prove the benevolence and inevitability of Roman rule. The legions are gone, the empires of old are dust, but the strategy, the cold calculus of using human intimacy as a tool of control, is a ghost that has never fully been exorcised from history. The story of the wives of the conquered is the ultimate testament to this. It reveals that the most enduring victories are not won by destroying a people's army, but by capturing their future, by rewriting their stories in the hearts of their own children. It is a grim reminder that sometimes the deepest and most lasting scars of war are not left on the battlefield, but in the quiet of the home, in the bonds of family, and in the silent, screaming solitude of a woman who has become a weapon against everything she once loved. Which of these three silent weapons, the hostage, the spy, or the mother, do you think was the most effective tool of control? Let us know your thoughts below. And if you believe that the true cost of empire is always paid in the currency of shattered lives, subscribe to Abandoned Historians, where we dig deep to unearth the stories that power tried to bury.